Hello everybody and welcome to part 4 of this Flair D7 by Flair build. As you can see, the tail surfaces have been completed now. When I left you, I'd built up the tail, horizontal stabiliser, the fin and the rudder. I've since cleaned those up and give them a sand down. And I'm really quite pleased with the sort of finish that I've got on them. So they're done and can be put to one side. And here is the tail surface with the elevator horizontal stab for those across the pond, as it was pointed out to me. Now, back to the build of the fuselage, so to speak. I'm going to actually produce a working tail skid, and that will be the subject of a totally separate, excuse me while I move this, a totally separate video, because that's going to be a little bit more involved and may be of interest to people. I'd left the combing at this stage, excuse me, because I was unclear whether I was going to take the combing right to the front, because on some versions that I've seen, this is being cut away to allow room for the exhaust. But on others, I've now discovered that they were fed in with the exhaust just coming out the side. So I'm going to go with the covered in version, and if I change my mind, it won't be a big job to actually cut this section out. So I'm going to go ahead as it is drawn on the plan. And that calls for these parts to be laid in. They'll need a bit of trimming. Now, it actually says all the way back to here, but I'm not going to do that. And the reason is I'm going to have, I think, a full cockpit. The other model that I've got, which was a Flair model, it was a refurbishment job, had the sheeting all the way across and had a bust of a pilot stuck on the top, which is fine. But when I've looked at it, there's a lot of empty space under here, and with careful routing of a continual loop system for both the elevator and the rudder, I think it's actually going to be possible to have a complete cockpit here. Well, I'm going to work on that premise, and if I can do that, it'll be a great result. If it turns out I can't, I will at least be able to have a 3/4 cockpit, which will be more realistic than basically a figure cut off at the shoulders. First thing then is to glue these parts in. There are 5 of them, as I pointed out there. Some of them are a better fit than others. Very slight amount might need to be shaved off from some parts. That's a good fit. Might need a slight small amount sanding off. And then I'll be able to taper this ready for the cowling to go on, but a little bit more there, I think. Just enough to ease it in gently. That's fine. Next one might actually need a piece shaved off. Oh, that's fine too. I'll live with that. This one. Just a little bit off there, I think. Not much required. Yeah, that's good. Now this is where I think I might leave it short. I'll put this piece in, and there might even be some of this cut out, but I'll put that piece in, and once that's done, I may be able to trim some of this out. I'll leave this, as I say, to see if I can fit a full cockpit in. So let's get these glued in place. I've used white glue to pin the main part down, but I'll use a little bit of CA to seal along the bulkheads or formers. Somebody said they like the use of a brush to apply the glue. I hadn't really thought of it, it was just seemed a natural thing to do personally. I suppose some people squeeze them out of tubes and out of bottles. This just seems a more precise way to apply the glue that you want. Couple of pins in there, I think. Oh, I've got a big announcement to make. Yesterday morning, I think it was yesterday morning, I got up and just checked for any responses or comments that people have made. I try to respond to every single one of them. I'm not so big that I can't do that. So just out of courtesy, I like to respond to everything I see. If I haven't responded, I've missed it. I'm very sorry about that, but generally I'm good. So anyway, I got up yesterday morning, clicked on, and I went to the YouTube studio just to check how things were clicking over. And lo and behold, I'd hit the 3,000 subscriber mark. And I'm absolutely amazed at that and very grateful for everybody who's decided to subscribe. There are still lots of people who look in on a regular basis that haven't, and it costs nothing. And you can always unsubscribe if you don't like what I'm saying or doing and you get bored with it. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And a massive thank you to all those subscribers who've made the effort to follow the journey. It is really quite humbling, and I've made a number of what I would call internet friends via YouTube. Some are in the UK and some aren't. And they're such regular contributors, you start to get a feel about the people that you're hearing from, and it's nice to hear from them. So a massive thank you. I get a big kick out of that. Long may it continue. So thanks again. Thumbs up apparently is a big deal. I don't really know enough about it, to be honest with you. The more thumbs up you get, the more your YouTube videos get shared, which is cool. You don't make a huge amount of money out of doing the YouTube. It's not the reason I do it. If that was the case, I'd be skipping around the gym in a leotard doing crazy things, because that seems to be the way that you get hits. To perish the thought. I do it because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy sharing the hobby. I get a real thrill out of sharing my enjoyment in the hobby. But it is nice to get a little bit of financial reward, and it just all gets ploughed back into buying modelling materials and such like. So at the moment, these pieces have just been glued directly down. I haven't glued them to the former yet. I think the best way to do that is to run some CA along the joint. And as I've said, I put a working skid on the DR1 which was a major refurbishment. There has been a major refurbishment. It's not finished yet. And I think I've learned from the mistakes on that, on how to make a simple yet effective skid. And as I say, I'll do a separate video on that. And I think people will find it interesting. Now, the other Flair D7 that I own, which was a refurbishment, which is in finish colours, it's got the skid designed by Flair, which is basically a piece of wire with a plywood support in it. And the model is actually surprisingly manoeuvrable on the ground, despite not having a working wheel or working tail skid that works with the rudder. Just the rudder alone and a blip of power is enough to get it round, which is cool. Right, let's run some CA along the joint. And these nozzles, I buy them in packs of, I'm not sure even if it's thousands or hundreds, and as they clog up, you just simply nip the end off. They really help with a more precise application of the CA than I think would be possible if you were doing it with just the nozzle that comes with the model, with the bottle. I'm just running a bead along here, and the capillary reaction will sap in or draw in the CA to make for a strong joint. I mean, strictly, I don't even think this is necessary. This it is going to be combed in. Right, there we go. Now, we have some additional parts. Part 25, which are sidewalls for the gun placement. And luckily, I have two model guns for this. I had a real nightmare. I'm using CA to glue this on, by the way. I had a real nightmare trying to source guns for the DR1 project, and Cliff Harvey had listened to the video all the way through. I think he plays them in the background when he's modelling, and he heard me saying that I was struggling to find models for the machine guns, the Spandau machine guns. And without really even, I don't even think he contacted us at the early stage. He just started printing me some off, 3D printing, which was absolutely superb. Got me out of a real bind. One I would have overcome at some stage, somehow, I'm sure. But isn't it nice? That's an example of a pal that I've made through the radio fraternity, the internet, as Blas says, from the Petrinskich brothers, an RC brother from another mother. Even if you only fly, I don't say only, sorry, even if you fly foamies or almost ready to fly models, or you're only interested in 3D model, we've all got more in common than we have different about us. And I think that's a nice thing. There are people at the model club that I belong to, Chesty Street Model Club, that I don't think I would ever have met other than through modelling. And I think I'm enriched for that opportunity. It's a positive thing. Now, these parts, 24, are the walls that provide support for where the mock engine will go. So we'll just move this round because we're in the way a little bit. I'll glue these in place. Just realised I haven't glued there. Just making sure that they're lined up square. And the next one. Now these are protruding above the surface of the curved formers. So what I will have to do is when everything's dry, let's give it a rub down so it's following the profile of the formers. And that way, when I come to do the combing, which we'll do in this video, they'll sit nicely. So there we go. The engine at the moment actually isn't fixed in place. Doesn't do to have balsa dust going all over the place while you've got an engine in situ. So there we go, that's that part done. I think it's coffee time. I'll let these set, then we'll chamfer them down so that we get a nice surface for the plywood, the thin plywood, to be glued down. I'm not adding that, as I've said, because I would like to have an open cockpit here. This will probably need to be cut away as well. Pause it there, and then we'll pop back when I'm ready to actually remove the pins, shape this, and then we'll talk about adding the plywood. Oh, almost forgot. These parts, part 26, glued at the end here. And that provides the end of the gun bay, so to speak. We glue this on. When I picked this kit up at a swap meet, it's a couple of years ago now, when I opened the box up, I wasn't madly keen on building another one because I already had one. But it is a superb flying model, and for that reason alone I should have not even hesitated. But when I opened the box up, in the box what did I find but the guns and the wheels? Great bonus, and I've hummed and hawed over this for a long time, how I'm going to finish the model. And to create a lozenge finish was a little daunting, but there's another chap that I've met via the internet, never physically met him actually, just chatted to him, and he's provided a possible way around producing the lozenge effect. If I don't really decide to dive in, I think I'm going to go down the Dutch D7s that became part of the Dutch Air Force. I've got a real affinity with Holland, and the Dutch people have had a number of superb holidays in Holland, and I enjoy the people and I enjoy the place. So it would be nice to pay a little bit of homage to that country via a Dutch model. So it's a much simpler design, and that is attractive. Maybe let's just be a bit different and not produce a typical World War I German version. Post 1918 might be an interesting thing to do. Could also be a bit of a cop-out, but never mind. Right, we'll let that dry, coffee time, and then we'll come back and do the decking. As you can see, this is now prepped and ready for the application of this lovely ply. There's a definite smooth side and a slightly ruffled side. I'm going to wet the outer smooth side and then I'm going to steam it, and that'll help it curve to the profile. That shouldn't be difficult. And you'll notice that I've put a chamfer on the edge so that there's something to glue the wood to. And when I do the second part, the turtle deck here, I'm going to glue a piece of wood along the top of these longerons on the fuselage, and I'll put a camber or an edge on them so that there's something to glue the turtle deck to in the same way. So let's proceed. I'm going to steam this first. I'll video that and you'll see how much it forms, takes form, and then we'll have a go at applying this. Now I've got two choices. I can either use CA, which I'm very much tempted to do. I may CA along this edge and use white glue here on this part, wrap it over and CA, and then put some bands all the way around it. That's one possibility. Another is just to use CA all the way. Do half of it, CA it, and then using this nozzle, apply the rest CA, and so on. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let's get it steamed and see how it goes. Here we go. This has been dampened. From what I understand, kettles are something of an item that's found in English, British homes, less so in America. How can you possibly make a cup of tea without a kettle? A cup of tea? There we go. And you can see there that that's taken on a nice curvature just by the application of water and a little steam. Let's crack on. Well, I've decided I'm going to go with glue, and I'm going to use masking tape to hold it in position. White glue and masking tape. I had thought of the CA, as I've already mentioned. I'm going to be a bit patient, and I'm going with the white glue. Just because if I get it wrong, it's an instant mistake which is hard to undo. This you've got a little bit more thinking time and planning time. So I'm applying the white glue, all the contact points, and obviously along this edge. And I'm not being sparing in the glue. Making sure there's plenty on. I'll apply that all the way along. Let's do the rest as a time lapse, otherwise it'll get really bored. I'm marking here the position of the formers so that I can line up the tape. I don't want to be applying pressure with the tape when there's not a former supporting it. So just a little mark like that. Having left this so thoroughly dry, morning after the night before, it's time to take everything off. And that should be well taken now. I eventually did go with the white glue. Just on a whim, Sometimes it's CA, sometimes it's white glue. This time I went with a more traditional way of applying it. There you go. Now, all this is going to come off, obviously. And there you go. So, first thing, let's trim off the excess. There we go. It's a nice clean edge, isn't it? Right, so I just need to repeat that on the other side. And then we've got the plywood deck applied. I'll leave the video at this stage, I think it's long enough. The cutouts and other finishing details I'll leave for a final video on the fuselage. So I hope you found that useful. Once again, a massive thank you for all those who've subscribed. If any of you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Join in the fun. So let's get creative, and if we get the chance, let's get flying. Bye, folks.